The distress beacon had been silent for 3 cycles when Margut's shuttle finally picked it up. She adjusted her aviator sunglasses, a relic from Earth that she wore religiously despite the recycled air of the cockpit fogging them up constantly, and punched in the coordinates. The signal originated from a small moon in the Kepler 442 system, uninhabited according to all official records. Another salvage run, she muttered, though her gut told her this would be different. Enzo's voice crackled through the comm system. Margut, I'm picking up life signs, multiple small ones. Small? She leaned forward in her seat. Define small, juvenile. Maybe a dozen of them. No adult signatures within range. Her heart sank. Abandoned children were the worst kind of salvage. The wars had left so many orphans scattered across the outer colonies, and the coalition barely had resources to track them all down. She brought the shuttle down gently on the moon's surface, the landing gear crunching against crystalline sand that glittered like broken glass under the system's twin suns. The habitat was a converted cargo hauler, its hull scarred with micrometeorite impacts and jury-rigged repairs. As Margut descended the shuttle's ramp, Enzo was already at the habitat's airlock. Running diagnostics, life support's holding barely, he said, his dark eyes scanning the readout on his wrist display. They've been here maybe 6 months. Someone knew what they were doing to keep these systems running this long. The airlock hissed open, and Margut stepped inside. The cubs hit them like a small, furry avalanche. They were Velkari, a species that resembled Earth's foxes if foxes had 6 legs, bioluminescent patterns along their spines, and the cognitive capacity of human 8-year-olds. There were 13 of them, chattering in their native tongue, a musical combination of chirps and barks that Margut's translator struggled to parse through the chaos. Whoa, whoa, Enzo laughed, trying to keep his balance as 3 cubs climbed up his environment suit. Easy there, little ones. But the cubs weren't interested in Enzo. They were fixated on Margut, or more specifically, on the aviator sunglasses perched on her head. The boldest cub, its bioluminescent stripes pulsing bright orange with excitement, stood on its hind legs and reached toward her face. Margut knelt down instinctively, and the cub gently lifted the sunglasses from her head with surprising dexterity. Hey, those are, she started but stopped. The cub had placed the sunglasses on its own face, or attempted to. They were comically oversized, sliding down its snout, but the cub adjusted them with its paws and struck a pose. Its chest puffed out, and it made a sound that Margut's translator interpreted as, "I am captain now." The other cubs exploded with excitement. Within seconds, they were mobbing Margut, all trying to get their paws on the sunglasses. She watched in bewilderment as the cubs passed them around, each one putting them on and immediately adopting what could only be described as a swagger. They'd march around the habitat's common area, making engine noises and giving what sounded like commands to their siblings. "Enzo," Margut said slowly. "Are you seeing this?" Her partner was doubled over with laughter. "Oh, I'm seeing it. I'm also recording it because nobody's going to believe this otherwise." One cub wearing the sunglasses climbed onto a supply crate and began gesturing dramatically at the others, barking orders. The translator caught fragments. "Engage thrusters. Full power to forward shields. Prepare for jump sequence." "They think they're pilots," Margut breathed, wonder and amusement mixing in her voice. "They think the sunglasses make them pilots." It made a strange kind of sense. The Velkari were a relatively young spacefaring species, and cubs learned primarily through imitation. Whoever had been caring for them before, probably their parents who'd perished in some unnamed conflict, had likely been pilots. The cubs would have watched them work, would have associated certain behaviors and items with authority and capability, and apparently, in their young minds, sunglasses equaled pilot credentials. Over the next hour, as Margut and Enzo prepared the cubs for transport to the nearest coalition refugee center, the sunglasses continued to circulate. Each cub insisted on a turn, and each turn transformed them into a puffed-up, confident commander of imaginary spacecraft. They'd pilot invisible ships, dodge phantom asteroids, and engage in elaborate dogfights with their siblings. "We can't just take those away from them," Enzo said as they loaded supplies. "Look how happy they are." Margut watched as a small female cub, her bioluminescent patterns flickering shy purple, finally got her turn with the sunglasses. The transformation was immediate. She stood taller, chirped with authority, and her siblings actually listened to her for once. "No," Margut agreed. a plan forming. We're not taking them away. 6 hours later, after a stop at Outpost Kepler 442b, Margot returned to the habitat with a bag. Inside were 13 pairs of aviator sunglasses, sized appropriately for Velkari cubs. She'd paid for them out of her own salvage commission, and Enzo hadn't argued. The cubs' reaction was everything she'd hoped for. Each one received their own pair, and suddenly the habitat was full of 13 tiny pilots, all strutting around with newfound confidence, all believing they could navigate the stars. You know what's funny? Enzo said as they finally lifted off. The cubs secured safely in the shuttle's passenger bay, each wearing their sunglasses despite the dim interior lighting. Humans do the same thing. Put on a uniform, a badge, a pair of fancy glasses, and we become the thing we're wearing. Margot glanced at her reflection in the cockpit glass. She'd given away her original sunglasses to that first bold cub, but she was wearing a new pair now. They felt right. They felt like armor and identity combined. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, she said, adjusting the sunglasses and bringing the shuttle around toward the coalition station. Sometimes you have to dress like the person you want to become before you can actually become them. In the passenger bay, 13 Velkari cubs sat in their seats, sunglasses firmly in place, all of them believing, truly believing, that they were pilots. And maybe, Margot thought, by the time they grew up, they would be. The galaxy needed more pilots anyway, especially ones who'd learned that confidence was sometimes just a matter of perspective and a really good pair of sunglasses.